Welcome back, everybody. The SPL rolls on, the NA Sunday. I'm Aggro, joined by special guest caster, John Youngling Finch. What's going on, man?
Doing great. I'm happy to be here, Aggro. Happy to have an awesome set like this, Luminosity versus ALG. Are you excited for this match too?
It's going to be a good one for sure. Luminosity continues to try and mesh with their new solo laner, Aquarius. ALG, they're still trying to get all their ducks in a row because Ocean switching from that hunter role to that mid lane, just joining that ever-growing list of NA players who have moved from whatever role to the mid.
And that's right. And last week, we see Luminosity. They come away with both the wins there. So they got 3 points right now. ALG ended up having to split. So this is going to be very important. Week 2 in general, very important for seeing where these teams are going to end up lining up, which teams are going to be the ones that are going to actually be at the top, which is going down to the middle and the bottom. So hopefully we get to see some of that today.
And ALG got off to a great start during the summer split. Remember, they were near the top of North America during that summer split, and then they ended up falling off a little bit towards the end. So if their fans are looking for them to go to Super Regionals, not worry about that online gauntlet, you want them to get off to a good start here because they struggled towards the end of the summer split. Will it be reverse here? Maybe ALG doesn't start off quite as well and then turns it up in the later stages. We'll have to wait and see, but these are the sorts of games that if you can steal away a point or two if you're ALG, then it really sets you up for success later on.
Well, we'll talk about ALG having some success. That's going to start for them in this game in picks and bans. So let's go ahead and get those picks and bans up here for you. Take a look and see exactly where they want to try and get the gods and where they want to put them here in this matchup. Anything you're looking for in particular out of these two teams as we start off? It looks like Scotty, no surprise, banned out.
No surprise. Yeah, I'm looking for a Scotty ban, as I always am, especially against BaRRaCCuDDa, who loves that god and does so well with it. RTO banned by LG, no real surprise there. Terra, Chulainn, Camazotz, those are the gods that you could really see first picked here. Raven as well, though NA has started to move away from Raven. That's EU, Dignitas, they're still going to play that Raven in the jungle all the time. Rival will as well, but for the most part, most NA junglers are moving away from it a little bit. Nemesis a little bit surprising, but Mask so comfortable on that god, and if ALG is going to go with a warrior-heavy composition, it's a smart ban.
Terra does end up getting banned, just like you said there, by LG, but first pick locked in for ALG is Chulainn. Bit of a powerhouse over there in that solo lane role, so that's very likely going to be what CycloneSpin is working with. And then LG, they're the ones that are going to have Hu-Yi first pick.
Yeah, that's exactly what Space Station did, and Zap looked really good on it, so may as well
especially into Chronos, right?
But that means they get Hu-Yi and Camazotz. Those are two picks that are really strong right now. Chulainn likely for CycloneSpin, as you mentioned, but could be for Weekend in that jungle as well. Does like to play that sort of frontline role, and that could be the Osiris as well. Either one of these can go jungle, but one's going jungle, one's going solo, and look for ALG to really try and dominate that right side of the map early on.
And there is Chronos, just like we were mentioning, getting picked in. Very likely going to be in going into the ADC role there. That's for Metyankey, then for ALG. But like you said, though, that's some of ALG's strength as Fafnir gets locked in, that they have a lot of flex there between Weekend and CycloneSpin and their ability to take, kind of not even really sure what into each role.
And they've played together for so long. They're so comfortable with one another. They're definitely going to be able to try and just dominate that right side with these two warriors. Camazotz, while great in the early to mid stages against mid lane mages, not quite as potent against those warriors.
We see Jingwei and Nox getting banned out here. Hell as well. Another strong ban coming out for LG. And then the Morgan. So a lot of, looks like mid lane focus here. Maybe Hell a little bit more support, but definitely mid lane focus from ALG.
Wouldn't be surprised if that Chronos is in the mid lane for ALG. I mean, you're moving to a new role for Oceans and putting him on something that he's definitely comfortable on. Chronos, yes, a mage, but still mostly an auto attacker that has some great mage abilities. Wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to keep him comfortable with something he's familiar with. He played Chiron last week in that mid lane. Things like that, even if this isn't for Oceans in that mid lane, it allows them to pick a physical hunter for him in the mid. Probably going to be that Chiron for Oceans once more.
Khepri also locked in for ALG as LG took Erlang Shen. Khepri, speaking a little bit to what you're talking about, though, very safe, very much about that sort of that comfortability for you as Soul comes in last for LG. You think that's sort of what they're looking for out of this Khepri pick in particular from ALG?
I mean, ALG's right side of the map just wants to run you down. They just want to chase you until the end of the earth, and Khepri really allows you to do that. It also makes up for the lack of initiation that you can have on your team, because normally you want an initiator that can start the fight going and survive afterwards. When you have a Khepri on your team, surviving doesn't really matter that much. It's just about getting that fight started. So if Weekend wants to ult in the middle of 4 people to get the fight started, NeiruMah could be right there with the Scarab's Blessing. It kind of acts as a pseudo-initiation.
And we do end up seeing CycloneSpin taking the Chulainn and then Weaken taking that Osiris. So boiling down about how we expected it for him there. But again, ALG are going to have a lot of aggression here on that right-hand side, and we see it right away. CycloneSpin and NeiruMah's over here actually on this right-hand side. The whole team is way over here waiting, very likely to try and catch someone from LG out if they can.
I mean, and when you have 2 warriors, one of them being Osiris, with where you basically get permaslowed with his 1, and then NeiruMah can set you up with the Abduct or the Root. Not a bad idea from ALG to try and catch someone sleeping from Luminosity. But Luminosity already warded. They went to that right-hand side and just made sure that they would have enough information. They know that that right-hand side is where Allegiance is going to look to push their pressure early.
And that was smart from Allegiance. It's just if anyone was caught out, we'll go for that, 5-man catch you sleeping in the jungle. But when they realize they're not, they just go back sort of their traditional start. We do see Oceans here alone in the mid lane. Oh, not alone. He's actually got NeiruMah there with him in the mid lane. So they're going to let Metyankey do, like we've been seeing a lot more lately, have that solo start over there in the duo lane.
But BaRRaCCuDDa is starting with JeffHindla. Most Hu-Yis end up starting alone because of how good that Hu-Yi buff clear is. But with Jeff there, Barra and Jeff should be able to get back Harpies where they started, red and purple, probably before Metyankey's able to do that all by himself. So that's just using that Hu-Yi clear that most people say, yeah, it's good enough. He can do it on his own. This is LG saying, it's really good, so we can get even more right away if we put Jeff with him.
Now, Aquarius and Mass, they did go get the speed buff, come back over the lane. Now they're going back and finally getting that blue buff so they can meet Weaken and CycloneSpin here in the lane. Weaken and Cyclone are going to have that speed buff still available for them, so they can back up to that. And I believe we did also see those elementals go the way of Allegiance there as well.
So ALG going to have the XP and gold lead on that right-hand side of the map, and that's the entire point of this draft, is to get pressure on the right side early on, but LG might not give it to him for free.
Yeah, Mask and Aquarius recognized that they were over here trying to get that speed buff. They are able to secure it, does Weaken, and using that speed, he starts to get aggressive onto Aquarius, but Erlang, very safe. The stun does come out, though, catch him at the end of that dash, and now they're trading out a good bit of poke, but not very likely getting any kind of kills on these big warriors here early as they do back off.
And Aquarius has that Death Toll. He's got multi-potions. He doesn't need that mana sustain, really focused on the health between the Health Chalice and the multi-pot. So even this poke onto Aquarius, not going to end up being too relevant. Weaken, the poke onto him, probably not as relevant either. He's got multiple health potions still waiting, and of course those cleave auto attacks with the Death Toll.
And Metyankey just getting stalled out here over on the left-hand side. It's looking very rough for him. They're not even pushing the wave under tower, just letting those minions get freezing the wave essentially, and Metyankey's having to be behind his own tower and just wait for them to come on in to try and get some farm. NeiruMah finally rotating over here to try and help alleviate some of that pressure.
And Khepri, one of the best at the early wave clear. Fafnir is pretty good. That hammer does excellent base damage as it passes through the wave, but it can be body blocked. But with how much farm Metyankey's already lost, can't really afford to try and play aggressive in that lane. So even with NeiruMah showing his face on the left-hand side of the map, the desired effect that Luminosity was going for has already been achieved. They already pushed Metyankey out a little bit.
And this is an important time for Luminosity to establish some of that early control over here, and that's what we maybe even saw Weaken responding to in the mid lane. Those oracles are up over here on the left-hand side, so that's going to be a good place to try and get some neutral farm here for these two teams. So LG, if they get that farm, can try and establish it as CycloneSpin tries to take these elementals alone. He's able to get the dash, though, to get away from a lot of that damage. Not really any kind of kills coming there from that one.
Baskin a little bit off the mark with that Stellar Burst. If that hits, that probably leads into the Supernova and could have been first blood for Luminosity there, with CycloneSpin sitting only at level 4, but LG's mid laner a little bit off the mark, so CycloneSpin escapes. And on the left side of the map, Oracles haven't even been taken yet. Now Jeff is going to start to rotate over after they forced Metyankey back to base. Met's Aegis already on cooldown, still down for a little under a minute to go, so don't be surprised if Luminosity try and continue their aggression on the left-hand side.
It's been a real rough start over here for Metyankey, but that's sort of a little bit by design. I got to think from Allegiance. Their focus has very much been on that right-hand side, as we do see BaRRaCCuDDa and Jeff come over here to take these oracles. They sort of said, hey, Metyankey, just kind of handle it over there on that side on your own. We trust he has that late-game Chronos to start coming through for us later, as he does at least get his own red buff, and we're going to try and establish our early game pressure on the right side.
Kind of surprised that Allegiance doesn't give that red buff to Oceans in this scenario, because Met is not going to be able to box anytime soon against the Hu Yi, even though he's now even in levels. And this is why we've seen teams be okay with their Hunters kind of getting decimated at the beginning of the game in terms of their early game farm. I mean, we saw it yesterday, Jermaine for Elevate sitting down 3 levels at the 3-minute mark, and then he comes back and makes an impact in the later stages. It's all about biding your time. But Met not going to be able to box BaRRaCCuDDa with the red regardless, so I think I would have rather seen that go to Oceans.
Mid Harpy still available over here, but it's Metyankey who's once again under pressure. Kind of want to set up a macro for that one, so I don't have to keep saying it, because this duo lane for LG is just looking real aggressive.
But again, Met's the same level now as BaRRaCCuDDa.
Yeah.
BaRRa has a 30 XP per minute over him. That's really not a big lead for the Hunter for Luminosity. So as long as Allegiance continues control of these fire elementals on the right-hand side, continues to control their buffs, if Weaken or CycloneSpin can put some pressure on and get some invades maybe onto the enemy back Harpies, then Allegiance is going to be just fine.
Now, Chiron here, that's Oceans in the mid lane. Looks like he started off with the tier 1 of Transcendence. Is that something that's pretty normal for the Hunters in the mid lane to take that Transcendence tier 1? I know it gives a lot of mana. Like, what is it that does for you?
A lot of mana and a lot of power, and it allows you to just stay in the fight for a little bit longer, because a god like Chiron really wants to be using their abilities pretty often in the middle of these team fights. So if you can make sure that you never have to worry about your mana pool, plus it gives you that mid-game power spike that you really want out of your mid laner, because something like Soul for Baskin, he's going to be able to do significant damage to the enemy jungler, support, mid, whatever it may be, as soon as he finishes off his second item. And you kind of want that same sort of curve, even if you're playing a Hunter in that mid lane, because usually their power curves are a little bit later. They need the Executioner, the Chin size, they need a bunch of items to really start to be impactful, but Transcendence can kind of flatten that curve out and start to put it in your favor.
Right around 6 minutes here. The gold lead is pretty much even here, maybe like 100 or so, but it's very, very close. ALG doing a good job of maxing out some of the gold lead, the pressure that's coming from Metyankey over here, as we do see both ultimates from the AD carries committed here. Chronos rewinding, as well as those Hu Yi Suns raining down. So those ultimates won't have to worry about seeing that impact for a while, but that's just them still continuing to trade over there in that duo lane.
And look at what Aquarius has picked up as that relic, that Hand of the Gods in the solo lane. So don't be surprised if you see Luminosity start to really focus out these objectives. Between Fafnir, Soul, and that Hog, it could be easy.
Yeah, CycloneSpin feels like he can get a kill here, committing the ultimate, and he does. He's able to go into that rage form and take down Aquarius, no problem. And it looks like once that started, it started here in mid lane too, as JeffHindla continues to push down onto Weaken, but it's actually Baskin who's very low. He was in that immortal form, but it was not enough.
Mask has to go up into the ultimate, and Jeff jumps right in front of Weaken's in Ocean, but they don't really have enough left after getting that kill onto Baskin. 2 quick kills in Allegiance's favor, and Aquarius just overestimating how much damage he can take in that matchup against the Chulainn. CycloneSpin throwing that experience around a bit in that lane.
Yeah, it looked like it was about an even trade for him over there in the right lane, but if it's an even trade and you're at my tower line, that means I get to chase you down all the way the rest of the length of that lane. That's kind of what CycloneSpin was able to do for him. Good poke there, actually, onto Weaken. The Weaken probably won't be able to stick around too much longer there after a nice shot coming out from BaRRaCCuDDa.
But he's rejoining with his team on the right-hand side and controlling the fire elementals. It's exactly what we said Allegiance needed to do coming into this match. But despite the fact that Allegiance get the first blood and the next kill, LG still shut out on the board. This game's pretty much even in terms of gold. No real lead for Allegiance quite yet, despite the fact that Metyankey's been left alone. He's now right there. I mean, he's the second highest XP per minute in that duo lane, and that's the power of leaving your Hunter alone. Just, yeah, it's going to stink in the early game, but as long as you don't die, as long as you can survive, even if you have to back whatever it may be, you're going to end up catching up eventually.
And that's what we saw from Metyankey, playing very smart over there, back behind his tier 1 tower. And Allegiance are starting to use their, the bit of the lead they got from that fight, or just the pressure on the map. We saw them get those oracles, able to come back and start and control some of the buffs there too. So they're doing a good job here in this early game.
And I touched on the Hand of the Gods for Aquarius, but didn't mention that that's not going to help him out if CycloneSpin has something aggressive like Horrific Emblem, which probably sets up that solo kill for the first blood. So that's the difference between a relic that secures you your buffs. Yes, it's going to get you ahead in farm potentially, but Erlang Shen's clear is so good anyways. I think I would have rather seen a sprint or a shell coming out of Aquarius. Probably a sprint against how many slows Allegiance has between the Osiris and the Chiron. There's so many that you want to get away from and really reposition, or you can use it aggressively. Could have end up saving his life there if it wasn't the Hog.
Bit of a grouping over there for Luminosity. They were trying to catch Weaken before he backed, but he is able to get that back off on time, so no harm, no foul from them over there on that left-hand side. But now Luminosity still kind of grouping around this Gold Fury, so they might be looking to try and sneakily get this started up here, and that's exactly what they're doing. BaRRaCCuDDa commits the Hu-Yi ultimate, and now Allegiance is rotating over, but it looks like they might have been too late. Mask is able to secure that Gold Fury, so Luminosity sneak one away and catch Allegiance sleeping.
Baskin pretty low in that mid lane. Weaken going in for him with that Lord of the Afterlife. Aegis buys him a moment, but Cyclone gonna pick up that kill. Weaken low between the towers, and Mask answers back.
Yeah, the Aegis did a great job there for Baskin. Even though he did end up falling, it meant that Weaken had to commit a little bit too far into the fight, and that's where they were able to come in and still clean him up. But now Aquarius rotating in, but so safe there is that Chiron, able to push right on through, no problem.
Nice
I like this
route.
aggressive play from CycloneSpin, though, man. He ain't letting you get nothing for free.
Forces Mask's out, ultimate out for free there, just because of the damage he put out to him in that mid lane, and perfect timing too, because speed buff right about to respawn. Mask, despite being half health now after healing up off the back camps, can't go in 1v3 without an ultimate, so Allegiance get another small victory in the enemy jungle again on the right-hand side of the map. CycloneSpin really started to control this game pretty early on here.
And it's starting to become very clear where each team's advantage are. Like Luminosity able to sneak away a Gold Fury on the left side, and Allegiance able to take away the speed buff and the blue buff there on that right-hand side. So they're definitely playing to their strengths here so far. Based on that, which one do you think is going to be the one that's going to have the bigger impact as we start moving a little bit into the mid-game past that 10-minute park, that right-hand side or the duo side?
Well, eventually these warriors are going to start to fall off. I mean, they're going to be good frontliners in the late game, but BaRRaCCuDDa, if he can continue this pressure that he has on the left, he'll be able to really make a bigger impact in the later stages. That's kind of the way the meta has formed right now in the fall split, is the right side of the map is your early focus. The left side of the map, where your hunter is your late game carry. So if BaRRaCCuDDa can continue what he's done thus far, it should favor Luminosity. However, I know I keep harping on it, but Metyankey is not behind anymore in this lane. He's actually worth more gold than BaRRaCCuDDa, even after that Gold Fury for Luminosity. So Metyankey can make the same impact that BaRRa can in these later stages, and Chronos is as good as it gets in terms of a late game carry. It's really going to come up to who makes the bigger play between Metyankey and BaRRaCCuDDa if Allegiance can't continue to force it on the right.
NeiruMah does go in there for the dash onto Baskin, but Baskin is able to get away. JeffHindla commits the ultimate here, though. The slow does come out onto Oceans, and that's enough from Baskin to force the ultimate. Nice stun, an immediate follow-up from Baskin with the ult, but NeiruMah's ultimate from Khepri is there as well to keep Baskin going. And I'm glad we had the fight in the mid, because I wanted to ask you here, Baskin's already 0-2. He's been a big focus, I think, of ALG's offense.
But eventually it's going to become so late game with a Fafnir who's buffing her with Coerce, and it's going to become a lot to handle from the side of Luminosity. Taunt on the right-hand side. CycloneSpin taking this 2v1. Aquarius going to get a heal, but got anti-healed by that barbed spear, and Cyclone starting to win this 2v1.
Yeah, Aquarius recognizing the rotation from Mask, but CycloneSpin just doesn't care. He's raging out and able to get tons of damage back in that 2v1, and they're going to take the Portal Demon here from it, and this is a strong call. There's no one from Luminosity who's local here. ALG going to be able to take this. I don't want to call it free, because he takes a 2v1, but BaRRaCCuDDa able to take down Metyankey in the left side.
Before the Aegis or the ultimate came out from BaRRa, great individual plays on both sides. CycloneSpin on the right for Allegiance, and BaRRaCCuDDa on the left for Luminosity, and that's a big kill for BaRRaCCuDDa, because as I mentioned, Metyankey's still sitting even with him. BaRRa's going to have to be the one to make a play with the early pressure that he got, and that's sort of play you need to make. Now Met not going to be even anymore. BaRRa's going to get that lead, start to get closer to that important execution or power spike.
Ocean's going aggressive there onto Baskin, but now it's JeffHindla who's the one that's left forward in the mid lane. He doesn't care. He is a tanky, greedy man with lots of gold in his pocket, so he's happy to hang around a little bit here further. But I did want to talk a little bit there about the trade we just saw. Portal Demon, essentially for Metyankey. Who comes out ahead in that one?
Because of the fact that Weaken got to back, buy, and then invade on this right-hand side, he just stole away Mask's speed and the back harpies and the blue buff. It's going to be in Allegiance's favor. That's a lot of farm in favor of ALG. And look at how far behind Mask is now. We were talking about if Metyankey's going to be behind. Mask is very bottom of the net worth charts about a level and a half down from where Weaken is and still waiting to finish off that second item. Weaken's already got a pretty big power spike with that Heartseeker.
And that tier 1 tower on the right-hand side falls, but over here on the left side, Luminosity getting aggressive onto NeiruMah, forcing out his ultimate onto himself. Looks like he'll be able to get away safely, and now it's Mask who's in trouble. His ultimate comes out just to guarantee himself some safety.
Mask has not been able to use that ultimate aggressively once this game. It has been defensively every single time, and that's why you pick Warriors in the jungle. In a nutshell, that's why you want to get pressure, is to force this Camazotz to play defensively in the early stages. Because that's where, as soon as Camazotz finishes off that second item, he starts to really swing onto your mid lane mage, or in this case, your mid lane hunter, and that's where he can start to kind of snowball out of control. If he's 2 levels behind Oceans, like Mask is right now, that poke is going to be way less significant. Ocean's going to be able to put out more damage than he'll end up taking, and now this Camazotz is going to be on the back foot. Camazotz doesn't bring a lot to your team outside of damage. I mean, there's no hard CC.
It's a lot of damage.
Slow. It's a lot of damage, but if you're not doing the damage, then you're not doing a lot.
Yeah, this Gold Fury just respawned, and ALG recognized it with a strong rotation from CycloneSpin over here. They're just getting it started up, trying to get Luminosity to commit to a team fight. They even came over here, and we saw them take out one ward as soon as another one was placed. They established that vision control over here, too. They're kind of backing off, I think, just testing to see how well Luminosity would be able to respond.
I really like this Heartseeker pickup for Weekend. I thought it was going to be a Mass Immune. That's kind of the default second warrior item to give yourselves a big boost of power, some movement speed, and some protections, but you've got good poke as an Osiris. Just like that, you can toss out that 2 and do good range poke damage. You can stack up the Heartseeker quickly with your cleave auto attacks. Give Weekend that extra bit of damage he might need to secure a kill.
CycloneSpin kind of has to make something happen here because Aquarius does not rotate. He takes the tier 1 tower on the right-hand side, and ALG now have the Gold Fury down well below half health. Yi commits the ultimate over the top, does BaRRaCCuDDa to try and help get it secured, but Ocean pulls it back away from the damage, and he is able to secure it. Mask's ultimate comes out, but not too much comes from it. BaRRaCCuDDa, good A, gets to avoid the damage coming out from Baskin, but he's still able to go in onto CycloneSpin now. The ultimate's on top of him, but it wasn't enough to get any kind of kill from it.
Cyclone very low, still running, and Baskin's going to be able to get some revenge. Now NeiruMah, no ultimate for him. He used it on a Cyclone, and Jeff's on point with the stun. Luminosity lose the Gold Fury, but they get 3 members of ALG, and most importantly of those 3 is CycloneSpin falling. He was worth a ton of gold, and BaRRa somehow stays alive. Cyclone's jump just ended up on the other side of BaRRaCCuDDa on the wall.
Yeah.
Just barely missed him with that Salmon's Leap. Unfortunate for Cyclone because nothing he could really do about it. That's just perfect positioning by BaRRa. That's luck. Let me be clear. If it's BaRRaCCuDDa, it's perfect positioning. Anyone else, it's luck.
And that fight was so important for ALG because we didn't really see Aquarius make much of a rotation over there to that team fight. It was one where, because they gave up the pressure on the right-hand side, they had to make something happen here on the left-hand side. Even when things started to maybe not look so great for them, that's why they still had to commit so hard onto it. Ocean did a good job pulling out of the BaRRaCCuDDa damage. They are able to at least get the Gold Fury, so that's why now we only see about a 500 gold lead for ALG, even though Luminosity take back several kills.
But look at the XP dip that Allegiance just suffered, and that's where the kills really become important.
Yeah.
BaRRaCCuDDa might be getting pincered on this left-hand side, going to go up and over the wall, but a couple members waiting for him there, but his own team, they're with him.
That was actually a really good route from NeiruMah, catching him over the wall. Not much more able to come from it, but still a good move there. They do secure those oracles at least, does LG. And now they're heading back towards that mid lane as the objectives on the left-hand side are kind of down, but Portal Demon is going to be spawning up here soon, actually just coming up online. So that's where the next point of contention will be on the right-hand side.
And Baskin, you mentioned it earlier, was struggling a little bit. 0-2, he was being focused. Well, he picked up 3 kills in that last engagement. I believe all 3 went to Baskin, and a big reason why BaRRaCCuDDa survived was because of Baskin's perfectly timed ult. He throws out the Stellar Burst and drops the ultimate, kills one instantly, and just that knock-up disrupts CycloneSpin enough to get BaRRaCCuDDa out of danger. Really, really well played by Baskin, and now he's got a pretty significant lead in that mid lane, working towards what could be a Shaman's Ring, could be a Demonic as well. Those rings can really bring a lot to you now with the adjustments that they've had during Season 4.
Luminosity coming over here towards this portal demon now, recognizing that they're going to have to try and get something back here on this map after those kills. They've got it down to about 70% here, and NeiruMah, CycloneSpin are local with Weekend trying to come around. Looks like on the back, but Mask is holding him off. Knockup, though, comes out from CycloneSpin into the back line, and he's the one that gets turned and burned. He's not dead quite yet, but a lot of damage did come out. Khepri ultimate, though, very strong to save CycloneSpin, and now it's in the backside of the fight where Weekend's going in alone with that Osiris trying to get a bunch of damage.
Baskin drops the ultimate once more. Cyclone still tanking up that portal demon. Weekend gonna fall to Mask as Baskin and the rest of LG continue the fight. Metyankey does pick up Mask over the wall with the time rift, but still not enough to find these kills. Met full HP, trying to keep swinging, but LG finally secures the objective.
Fight ends up being a 1-for-1 overall, but Luminosity does take the portal demon, so it comes out in their favor, and Metyankey hanging around here for a while, able to get one more 1-for-1 trade with Baskin there. So still some more action on the back in that fight.
Just a little bit mistimed there by BaRRaCCuDDa. He was looking for the knockup after the relics usage by Metyankey to make sure that he could just hit one more auto and kill him, but Met was still had the purification beads active, so he just turns around, throws out the stop time, and it ends up being a 1-for-1 trade at the very end of that engagement. While it's not great for Metyankey, that's a big bounty he just got from BaRRaCCuDDa, so honestly, at the end of the day, I think that ends up being worth it for Met.
Is that why Metyankey stuck around in the back end of the fight? I was wondering maybe he didn't know the portal demon had already been completed just yet, or was he looking for someone low at the end?
He had already stepped up so far. He was kind of full committed to going in that team fight. And when he poked his head around the corner, he knew portal demon was down because the noise went off, but he sees JeffHindla backing very low. He sees BaRRaCCuDDa at 15% HP very low, and he had known that BaRRaCCuDDa's Aegis was down because of the communication from Weekend initially jumping on top of him with that Lord of the Afterlife. I don't have a problem with Metyankey going in there, just ends up as long as he gets the kill onto BaRRaCCuDDa, he does, ends up working out for him.
7-5 here are the kills with about a 500 gold lead for Luminosity now, with it all being said and done. Bit of a fight here over those oracles. They do end up getting split 1-for-1, and we're seeing some aggression over here because we're only 10 seconds away from that Gold Fury coming back up one more time. So a bit of jockeying over there for position and vision control.
And that Oracle vision is very important with the Gold Fury about to be up because it's uncounterable. Nothing you can do about it. Now, Luminosity doesn't seem to care very much about that because they took away that Gold Fury when Allegiance already had that Oracle vision earlier on in this game. But it is important to make sure that you have all the information necessary, just knowing how exactly the health of the Gold Fury. If anyone is using an ultimate to try and burn it down, cooldowns being used, things like that are very important. So you usually see these teams really try and jockey quickly for that Oracle vision early on, right before the Gold Fury spawns. Look at what Baskin has gone for, though, with this ring. Hastened ring. Trying to go back to the soul of Season 3, where she had that Fatalis effect on Disapparate. Gonna help out his survivability and damage.
Yeah, Gold Fury being started up here by Luminosity. They decide to commit here onto NeiruMah, and even though he puts the ultimate on himself, they still secure it. Weekend's Aegis is forced out early here too, and now he's isolated. There's Aquarius, keeps Metyankey from being involved in the fight. Weekend able to escape despite the slow from Baskin, but that's a 1-for-0 in favor of Luminosity, and they're heading back towards that Gold Fury.
Just one too many ults used to kill NeiruMah there. Either the Huyi ultimate or the Soul ultimate would have done it. LG used both, and it means they can't clean up Weekend.
And now the Gold Fury does go down here for Luminosity without much contestation. Metyankey's ultimate comes out as well, but he's still very much in trouble here, trying to put a bunch of damage back onto Baskin, and it actually was enough for CycloneSpin to get it cleaned up, but it still ends up being a 1-for-1.
CycloneSpin very low, still trying to go in though. 3v2 Oceans, no one's paying attention to him, and he's putting out tons of damage with that Odysseus bow. Now Cyclone de-transforms and jumps over the 2 from Mask. The ultimate will secure that one, and now it's LG who's got to run.
Weekend not giving up here on this just yet. It looks like he backs off of Aquarius and tries to go for JeffHindla as the sprint comes out from NeiruMah. So I'm not sure if that was a bit of a disconnect on which target they wanted, but JeffHindla does still get caught out here on the left-hand side, and now he's back to base.
Luminosity could have just gotten that Gold Fury, said thank you, thanks for shopping, and gone along their merry way, but instead they decide they want to keep that engagement going in for Metyankey. They end up losing 3 because of it. Look at the team fight recap. Just so much more damage on the side of ALG because remember, like I mentioned during the middle of that, they used 4 ultimates to secure that kill onto NeiruMah. And if once they get that kill, fine. You know, you get it, you get the Gold Fury, all's good. But to continue that fight, having those 3, it's really 3.5 because JeffHindla's still in that dragon form, but has less time on it. Mask, Baskin, and BaRRaCCuDDa all dropped ultimates to make sure that NeiruMah died, where, as I mentioned, only one would have really sufficed. That means the Luminosity is at an innate disadvantage as they push forward to try and get that fight. They end up picking off Metyankey, but definitely not worth the aggression.
ALG now over here on the right-hand side of the map, trying to establish some control before Portal Demon comes back up. Take a look here at Baskin. It's hard to believe that there was a time when I was worried about him earlier. Now he's 2 levels up here on Oceans, and he's been having strong impacts in this team fight. But like you said, when they pile the ults on top of each other, then it's either you make the hard commit and back off, or use the ultimates appropriately. And now it's ALG who are looking to group up here as that Portal Demon spawns. Baskin
has that Hasten Ring, now the Obsidian Shard as well. Saving Rod of Tahuti for 6th slot, not usually advisable right now. You really want it a little bit earlier than that. But look at how cheap this build is from Baskin. Dynasty Plate Helm, Bancrofts, Hasten Ring, Obsidian Shard, nothing above 2,500 gold. So he's already waiting for that 6th item slot, only at 24 minutes. This is a really smart build coming out of Baskin. 5 cheap items that are effective and can work well together, and then you top it off with the expensive Rod of Tahuti. Then you could sell that Dynasty Plate Helm for whatever you need in the later stages. I really like where his build's at.
Luminosity have that Portal Demon death. Gonna say it was down, it's actually just been completed. There, they take it away without any kind of fight from ALG. So that's a big win for Luminosity on that right-hand side of the map. Now they're kind of backing off here, and ALG looking for something here in this mid lane.
You can never give a team that has Sol, Hu-Yi, and Fafnir a second alone on an objective, because they're gonna take it. Even Hu-Yi and Fafnir, or Sol and Fafnir, you're gonna lose an objective pretty quickly, but now that you've got both, and Baskin has that Obsidian Shard completed. BaRRaCCuDDa also going for a cheap build towards the back end here. A quick power spike with the Aussie, a little bit more lifesteal, a little bit more penetration and attack speed as well. Now double lifesteal for this Hunter, really trying to make it so whenever he survives on that low HP threshold, he can keep on boxing.
And that Aussie pickup makes sense with them pressuring here in this mid lane. He recognized that he was going to need some power here for a fight that they were going to start up now. They do go in, a nice pull coming out from Khepri, but it's the soul damage ramming in over the top that really changes the scope of that team fight. CycloneSpin goes in and gets the knockoff of the 4 members, but they turn around onto him right away. Thorn's damage, though, shooting back out onto a whole bunch of Luminosity, and they're able to kind of back off there, but they do give up that mid tower.
BaRRa still healthy enough. Metyankey forced into the rewind, and Luminosity without any innate sustain, still trying to stay here. Nice stellar burst from Baskin over the top as Cyclone still trying to do his best to frontline.
Luminosity coming in here and taking down this tier 2 tower now without too much trouble. That team fight went very well for them, and I think, Aggro, you were so correct to point out that BaRRaCCuDDa's build choice, because this was clearly the plan here from Luminosity. They knew that after they got that Portal Demon, they wanted to come down and sort of force the issue, and that's exactly what they do here in that mid lane, picking up 2 towers and extending that gold lead to about 4K.
1,500 gold quickly, and there's so little you can do against a composition that has Hu-Yi, Fafnir, and Sol, especially when BaRRaCCuDDa's going a penetration-oriented build as he is in this game, when Baskin has his Obsidian Shard completed, and a little bit of extra attack speed from that Hasten Ring. It's so difficult. I mean, yes, you force them back, but if you take any return poke damage, and Legions took plenty, you just don't have enough time to stand in front of that tower because of how quickly LG is going to be able to bring it down. CycloneSpin is playing out of his mind this game, by the way. A 4-man knockup in the midst of everyone, and a well-timed transformation in order to give himself that burst of health with the health shield as well. Cyclone is really keeping ALG in this game. NeiruMah also on the mark. He hasn't missed a Scarab's Blessing yet. Weaken didn't end up needing it, but you got to throw it on him in that situation. It was actually the increased movement speed that saves Weaken's life more so than the actual preventing of death.
And as well as ALG are playing here, Luminosity is playing just that bit better as they do go ahead and start pulling the Gold Fury down to about half health. Oracle's already taken out, and they get the Stellar Burst off onto NeiruMah, but he backs up. But Weaken goes in and tries to get that Tethers off onto several members. Lots of health already taken out from Luminosity. BaRRaCCuDDa low, as is Baskin in the backline, but they back off smartly here, recognizing that that poke exchange went in favor of ALG.
Great shots from Oceans, but BaRRaCCuDDa has double lifesteal. He's already full HP. Doesn't matter if he's that low. Gold Fury started up by Allegiance this time, but Luminosity's healed up pretty nicely. Only Baskin still with a little bit of health missing.
And this is important. 2 ultimates already used for ALG, none used for Luminosity. Aquarius, though, is able to secure that Gold Fury in favor of Luminosity. CycloneSpin once again wreaking havoc on that backline. Able to try and get the push off onto Aquarius, but not much coming there from that. Now, CycloneSpin still establishing that front line, trying to get back and be a bit of a nuisance for him, but he's not putting out much damage and not getting a lot of support from the rest of his team.
Weaken around the back, looking for Baskin, but instead changes targets as Baskin drops a huge ult and erases Weaken from the map. CycloneSpin still on the run. ALG looked like they had the perfect fight there, but Baskin turns it all around with one supernova.
You know, and that's what I want to ask you too a little bit about that. Towards the end of that fight, once the Gold Fury does get taken down by Aquarius, it's kind of on ALG now to try and get something out of this engagement. And I think that's why we see CycloneSpin push so far forward, trying to make something happen there in that engagement. But it looks like there wasn't a whole lot of follow-up there from the rest of the team. Is that just the tankiness of LG, or what was happening there?
There's not a lot of AoE from ALG. I mean, you're looking at a Chronos for your Hunter. You're not expecting a lot of AoE out of your Hunter. Hu-Yi, one of the reasons he's so potent is because he does have that AoE ultimate. And then you've got Chiron in that mid lane instead of a traditional mage. And while he's great at the long-range shots, he'd already used that ultimate. That's really his AoE. So you really can group up as Luminosity, work as a unit without much worry.
Luminosity got that portal fire giant down to half health, but it's NeiruMah who gets punished for going in to try and contest it. He gets immediately taken down by Baskin, and the jump in onto Metyankey is good as well. And he also gets, well, I don't want to call it early, gets taken down to Aegis. Very good there to keep him alive, but he does eventually go back to base.
Just the relic forcing out from Metyankey. Jeff hit a beautiful hammer on that left side engagement that forced out the beads and ult. Still wasn't up from Metyankey. And then he finds him again with another perfectly timed stun.
CycloneSpin hanging around to try and contest this as well. The ultimate coming out from Oceans, putting in good damage onto BaRRaCCuDDa. In the backline though, Mask, recognizing Oceans the only one back here, deals into that ultimate, finally using it offensively, and takes down Oceans.
So this is something I never thought I'd say, but NA is doing something better than EU did yesterday. And I'm thinking of the Obey Rival set in particular, where Rival has the advantage around the Fire Giant, and instead of just full committing to one call, they're trying to bait someone in, but they keep the Fire Giant leashed. As soon as anyone from ALG shows up, Luminosity full commits instantly. Everyone's off the objective. Oceans was trying to snipe down that Fire Giant from a distance, try and steal it away, and by the time the first shot rang out, all of Luminosity was chasing down one of his teammates. Instead, really good objective calls from Luminosity. Whoever's making these calls to peel off and kill these targets, it clearly has the trust of his squad because everyone is responding instantly, and that's why Luminosity is seeing so much success.
They came in one by one, and if you did, they took them down. Luminosity has about a 7 to 8K gold lead in their pocket for their trouble there. Yeah, right about at 8K gold. It's 13 to 8 are the kills for Luminosity here. They also cleaned up the Portal Demon on the back of that, a little bit to be expected. So now with the Fire Giant around their waist, there are plenty of towers left up on the duo lane side and the tier 2 over here on the right, which seems to be the call for Luminosity.
Baskin is just crushing this game. 7, 3, and 5. He's full build now. He's got the Rod of Tahuti. Look at how much player damage he has. And it's all been relevant. A little bit of poke in the early game, but it's all been burst damage coming out of this mid lane Soul.
And I was going to say earlier, we were a little bit worried about Mass not being able to get too much damage out, and he is down there towards the middle, but it's kind of okay. If Baskin is going to do 26K player damage for you, you're still able to get plenty out of it, so it's not too big a deal for him. As they group over here, the tier 2 is down, and they're going to back off and try and get some more of these towers before they go any further, or just wait for the minion wave.
Probably just waiting for the minion wave in this scenario. We've talked about it a lot, but this objective shred from Luminosity is super hard to deal with. One wave could mean the end of this Phoenix.
Luminosity pushing here. Phoenix already at half health, and BaRRaCCuDDa drops down those suns so that there's no chance anyone from ALG can come up and try and put up a fight. That Phoenix is down, and Luminosity are backing off. They got what they wanted.
I love this build from Mask. Bloodforge, 5th item. You usually don't see lifesteal on Assassins, but that passive's excellent, and it's just 75 power that really augments well with that Heartseeker that he's picked up. Plus that shield is, that passive is insane. It doesn't matter what role you're playing, that passive is nuts. If Mask can get a kill, it's a good look.
CycloneSpin going in here, able to get a 2-man knockup as Fafnir was in his ultimate, but Mask able to take down Ocean's. Bit of a replay from that last fight, and he used that ultimate aggressively forward, trying to get out Metyankey. Ultimate was forced out from NeiruMah onto CycloneSpins that will no longer be available. He already used it to keep his solo laner alive.
Mask tanking up this mid Phoenix as Aquarius going a little deep. He gets abducted in and stunned, pushed all the way into the Titan room, but he's still alive. That's a tanky solo laner for Luminosity. Doesn't matter how many cooldowns Allegiance throws at him, they don't have Oceans alive.
Aquarius was under the Titan just now, right?
Yeah.
He was in the Titan room just now, right?
Uh-huh.
No, he's fine. He's fine. He's walking out. It's all good. 4 members around him. No big deal. As Luminosity group back up here on the left-hand side, take that tier 1 tower. Middle and right-hand Phoenix already taken down. And tier 2 on the left side also coming down as well. Luminosity now firmly in the driver's seat in this game as they are 13k gold up. And hey, let's just go get the Gold Fury too. We don't want anything left on the map for ALG to have.
And Aquarius, despite getting first blooded with that solo kill for CycloneSpin, has done his job really well this game after that. And once we enter the team fighting phase, Aquarius has looked really good, and that's where he's really shined as a whole during his short career in the SPL. He seems to be a very potent team fight solo laner, and he's not the CycloneSpin or the Benji who's going to be that team fighter that, you know, jumps in and makes all the huge plays. He's the guy who's like, hey guys, you don't have to worry about their hunter. I've got him. You know, you can do whatever. I'll handle Met and Oceans. Like, I'll be fine too, and I'll live. That's exactly what Aquarius has done all game long. And if he's not dying in those situations where he's going 1v1 up against a late game Chronos, a late game hunter for Oceans, he's doing his job well, and he really has thus far.
Not just Aquarius, but Mask as well. We talked early in the game about how his ultimate was getting forced out defensively so often in engagements, but in these last 2 team fights in particular, it's been Mask that's been sitting on either Metyankey or Oceans with that ultimate on the back end of the team fights. So important for cutting out the DPS from ALG, and they're having such a hard time fighting back in.
I mean, Mask does it all in that last team fight by insta-killing Oceans before he could even get his Aegis off. I mean, that's what I'm talking about when I say burst damage from the Camazotz in the late game. That's why I love this Bloodforge on him. Just putting that extra bit of damage not only into your crazy scaling that Camazotz has, but that Heartseeker burst as well. You've got a ton. That 2 is probably hitting Oceans for about half health right now, and that's not even factoring in if Mask can throw out the Screech and receive that 40 power buff on the back end as well. You're talking an instant kill, and that's exactly what happened to Oceans in that mid-Phoenix area, which allowed Luminosity to push forward and secure 2 of the 3 Phoenixes.
Fire Giant spawning in about 5 seconds here. Luminosity gonna go ahead and secure this. No real way for ALG to fight in here to try and stop them from getting this. Just gonna focus on pushing out these waves in the right and mid lane side to try and slow down the push from LG as much as they can, and then trying and fight on this left side Phoenix, which very likely will be the claim as Mass does slay the Fire Giant.
Now everyone from Luminosity can just basically push down everyone full build on the side of LG. Portal Demon doesn't really matter, but you can buy a couple wards, some power potions potentially. Allegiance has no intention of pushing out of their base right now, not with 2 waves of fire minions coming for their Titan.
No, and that's the right call there from ALG as well. They really didn't even get a chance to actually defend on the Phoenix. BaRRaCCuDDa zones out on that right-hand Phoenix last time with his ultimate, no way for ALG to move up, and then on this mid lane, they get blown up before the fight can start. Weekend and Metyankey trying to hang around, but a nice ward from LG comes out, so they double ward it, make sure they got twice the vision. They know exactly what's happening there as they move over towards this weakened right-hand Phoenix. And no confusion, Weaken's on LG, but the Phoenix is also weakened. As the team fight does break out here, BaRRaCCuDDa's ultimate raining down, not able to get too much damage out of it, but they do secure that Phoenix. But it's CycloneSpin in the back, knocking up several members of Luminosity, but this time they turn and burn on him. One more good ultimate from NeiruMah, though, does keep him alive.
That was huge from NeiruMah. If Allegiance end up losing CycloneSpin here, they could probably lose the left side Phoenix and potentially the game as well. Now Luminosity has to play it a little bit more patient, come with their wave towards the mid lane, but I don't know how much Allegiance can really do to defend this Phoenix from these late game carries that can shred the objectives so well.
Luminosity moving here into that mid lane. Weekend now is the one that dives in onto the back line, but there will be no Khepri out to save him. His Aegis does come out, and that keeps his health bar up as the mid Phoenix does fall very quickly that time. It's a lot easier when CycloneSpin isn't zoning 4 people by himself.
The problem with Allegiance's composition, there's just no late game burst damage.
Yes.
Metyankey is your late game burst, but that's the same as a hunter going into the back line and trying to crit everyone to death. That's what Metyankey is really looking to do, and that's just not a realistic ask unless you're already starting to win a team fight, especially in the defensive. Chronos in the late game really wants to position more like an assassin, come around the backside, trying 2 or 3 shot a squishy, or just try and shred through the whatever frontliners on top of him. Very difficult whenever you've got 5 people all staring at Met.
Luminosity already has this left side Phoenix down to about half health. Weekend trying to get damage onto Aquarius, but Mass jumps in one more time onto the back line on the Metyankey, up in the ultimate, forces out the ultimate actually as BaRRaCCuDDa able to get CycloneSpin, who was trying to zone out the rest of the team. Baskin's ultimate comes out as well, putting damage on the Metyankey and forcing him back as now Luminosity come barreling into the Titan room.
Baskin, the first one in, gonna put good poke damage onto Oceans. One stellar burst puts him down to about half HP. Luminosity has an opportunity to end here. They've got about 45 seconds without Cyclone. Just need some minions.
Catch out Weaken here one more time in the mid lane. That triggers JeffHindla into his ultimate so he can bring out some of the breath damage. Now they've got Weaken stunned out one more time, and it's the ultimate from Hu Yi that's being dropped down onto the Titan already at half health here, and it's all over but the client. Luminosity take game one.
Really well played by both sides. I mean, Allegiance did what they wanted to do in the early game. They controlled the right side of the map, but in the late game, there just wasn't enough there, and that's kind of the problem with these Warrior jungles. Mask is doing a lot more than Weaken's going to be able to do on the Osiris in the late game, and that's just character-driven more than anything else. Weaken and Cyclone did a nice job of trying to exchange the backline dives. It'd be, you know, on the right side, Phoenix Siege, Cyclone blinks in and does whatever, and then in the mid Phoenix Siege, it's Weaken's turn, but with the double lifesteal from BaRRaCCuDDa, just really intelligent building there, knowing that he's going to be a focus, that they're going to try and poke him out, they're going to try and dive him, and even with Thorns for CycloneSpin, best answer to Thorns is always going to be either not hitting them, the best answer, or if you have to hit them, you need enough lifesteal to punch through that damage that you're going to be doing to yourself. You can heal it back up. Ends up working out beautifully for Luminosity in the late game.
And that's exactly why even the stellar knockups that we were seeing coming out from CycloneSpin were looking so lackluster there in that engagement. There really wasn't anything for him to follow up. I remember the engagement by the Gold Fury. I was saying CycloneSpin's back there doing all this damage. No one's following up. It wasn't that no one was following up. They didn't have that big AoE burst damage to come out to try and end the rest of the team fights for him. So I think that's where we saw Baskin do 30k, 800k, however much it was, all that damage he pulled out at the end. That's what Baskin did so well for him.
Really, really good job. And I don't know what it was, but it just seemed like Weaken and Cyclone couldn't simultaneously dive the back line for whatever reason. Maybe instead of BaRRa getting out at 20% HP and then double life stealing off back harpies to become full health instantly, if they can both get in there at the same time, can't peel them both away is the idea, but with how well Luminosity responds to BaRRaCCuDDa's cries for help, you need to have someone who can burst him quickly. These Warriors who are going to just kind of whittle him down and chase him down and CC him aren't going to work quite as well against Luminosity because they do that better than just about any other team. They protect their backline really, really well. Any team that has JeffHindla on it is going to protect their backline really well.